Hey guys, welcome back to Pistons Talk Podcast. Hope you guys are having a great start to your weekend on this Saturday afternoon. I am joined once again by Eric Vincent. He is a Detroit Pistons beat reporter for ClutchPoints.com. Eric, welcome back to the show, man.
My pleasure, man. Happy to be here. How are you doing today, man?
Good. Happy that we could have you back on. I love having you on at least once a month just to catch up. And it's funny, we talked like before we were recorded about Shaquille O'Neal and like kind of like what he said last month, and he kind of wants to put some more gas on the fire. We'll get into that later, but I'm good we could set this up. I think to start off this podcast, we should start to talk about Cade Cunningham. Obviously, we did get some news from the Pistons PR that he is going to be out with a looks like a left leg contusion, which I kind of wanted to get just your overall thoughts with the injury. And should fans be worried, or do you think this is just end of the season type of injury and rest them up for the playoffs?
If I'm a fan, from what I've seen and what I know, as a reporter, I wouldn't be too worried about it. I don't think it's as serious as we are known to be, because granted, going back to Cade's rookie year, a lot of the reporting about his injuries, a lot of the details and information has been put out about his health has not even say like the most uplifting, but like I remember his rookie year where, they said it's no big deal, we're just going to sit him out for a couple games, that he ended up being out for like a whole month. So I understand some of the concern, but based on the details outside of the history, based on what we know for right now, I wouldn't be too concerned. Cade is not, in a cast. Cade is not limping. He's not on crutches. It's not any like drastic motion where, he's being taken away from action. He's participated in practices. The first game where he was ruled out because of the injury, he went through his normal shoot around with Jalen Duren on the court. And from what I saw, it didn't look like he was in any kind of like significant pain or anything that was substantial. So I don't know if there's, any kind of like further plan with it, or like, but we know what the Pistons are and how they communicate things. Like we asked JB Biggerstaff about it, and, he was very by the book. I defer to the medical staff. Our plan is to make sure our guys' health comes first. We're not going to rush anybody back, to over prioritize anything. But again, based on what we know, what we've seen, like, I don't think it's anything that fans should be over concerned about. I do think he should make a return if I were to guess it. I mean, he's day-to-day at the moment. If I were to guess, I think he will come back at some point before the playoffs. When that will be, I'm not sure. Again, day-to-day can, range with a lot of different areas. But again, we've seen him warming up. We've seen him playing. We've seen him practicing. And I don't think there's any other notices about him or how he's moving to maybe look in a different direction. So, I wouldn't be too worried about it. I think he'll be okay.
Yeah, I saw a lot of fans, myself included, because I saw the leg contusion or the calf contusion. Previous, I forget, I think it might have been Underdog Fantasy, because it was bilateral leg soreness, which, means both legs. If I have a little bit of like medical background, because before I got into sports media, I was actually going to school to be a medical coder. So I know all the kind of medical terminology. So contusion is just a bruise at the end of the day. It's a fancy word for a bruise. Mm-hmm. So maybe they misdiagnosed it from, bilateral, leg soreness to a calf contusion. If that's the case, that happens. 100%. Like it happens with doctors all the time. I'm not too concerned, because given how many games are left in the season. Now, if this was maybe an injury, maybe in January or February, then I'd be a little bit more concerned.
Right.
Just because you have a couple more, games to finish out the season. But I thought it was a prime example, or a prime opportunity rather, to give him rest, because like you were playing the Pelicans, who don't really have anything to play for.
Right.
You were playing against the Spurs, who, lost Victor Wembanyama and De'Aaron Fox. Like they don't really have anything to play for either. The fact that you beat the Cavs without Tobias and Cade and Jaden Ivey, that was a statement win in my opinion. But kind of circling back to Cade, I'm not too concerned. I don't like if they want to play him maybe the last two games of the season against the Bucks, because you never know. seeding might be like a thing that the Pistons are trying to, kind of one up the
Right.
Bucks. They're right on they're right on the Pacers' ass, and who knows? Maybe you win tomorrow against the Timberwolves. I mean, you're really knocking on the door at that 4 seed. But I think I would just tell fans, like, it's a day-to-day thing. I don't think it's going to be like a Bobby Klippman situation. To your point, participating in shoot around is a good sign, because when Bobby had his calf contusion, I didn't really see him participating in shoot around until maybe like a month or so after the calf contusion was initially announced. So I think this calf contusion injury isn't as serious as like a Bobby or even a Bojan last year. So I did want to touch on it. I know the fans are, kind of concerned that they haven't seen Cade in 3 games. I get it. I understand it. He's kind of like just the centerpiece of what everything that this team has done this season. But I mean, next man up mentality. Like last night was amazing, man. Like it's crazy.
To kind of like blend into that and kind of still harp on the same topic. If we want to take either Ivy, his injury concern, or Cade's injury concern, or even Tobias, if anybody's concerned or wondering where they may be at, look at how the bench reacted when Beef Stew crossed up Evan Mobley, and everybody on the bench got up, losing their mind, hopping around on the bench, having a good time. Like, if you're concerned or if you're hurt, you got a bad position, you wouldn't be hopping around the way that they were during that game. And it was plenty of reason for all of them to be excited. I mean, that game was absolutely unbelievable watching. Like I said, embracing that next man up mentality. JB putting on an absolute masterclass. Again, I even tweeted, I said, just the contrast differences between the coaches. Like, Kenny Atkinson is the favorite right now, which I think should swing at a certain point if people are paying attention. But if you watch the coaches, like, Kenny was sitting basically the whole game. He's very like mild-mannered, kind of talks to the assistant coaches around him. Did talk to some of his players too, but JB, you see he's up and active. He's in the ref's ear. He's talking to Jalen Duren, during timeouts. He's making adjustments with other players. Like, he is the most active coach, I think, in the entire NBA, to be honest. And like, just the contrast differences between the two really stood out to me. And it really shows how it's translating within the team as well. Like, they were saying it after the game too. Nobody believes but us. Next man up always. You watch Tim Hardaway go on a heater. It was very, very entertaining watching them, stand up to a Cavs team that didn't sit anybody. They had all their stars. DeAndre Hunter came off the bench. Donovan Mitchell, went on a heater in the fourth quarter, finished with almost 40. And they were able to withstand the runs they went on, make the proper adjustments, put Evan Mobley in a blender basically all game. I thought it was one of the worst defensive games he's played in his entire career. And you got it from a multitude of different guys that were putting pressure on him. Like, they didn't back down from their identities, whether it was the shifty guards that were coming at him. You saw Beasley playing good defense on him. Like, they were just very, very impressive from top to bottom. Starters, bench, coaching, everything was fantastic about that performance. Absolutely a culture statement victory for the Pistons last night. It was an absolute treat to watch.
So Funds of Anarchy left a comment. I know we were talking about JB and Kenny Atkinson, Coach of the Year. And he said this may be off topic, but JB won Coach of the Year with that win last night. So I just looked at the live lines for Coach of the Year on DraftKings. Kenny Atkinson is still the odds-on favorite, but JB's right on his ass at a plus 275. I hammered that thing at a plus 3,000 in December. So, I mean, if he wins it, man, I'm laughing to the bank. But
smart call. I ain't mad at you at all for that one.
We'll see. Because I'm pretty sure when I had you on in December, I kind of asked you, like, could he win Coach of the Year? Because I kind of felt like the way that they were gelling, they could possibly like sneak to 40 wins, but I didn't expect them to just keep month to month. The improvements are so drastic where it's just like maybe you see that in like a year-to-year basis, but on a month-to-month basis, like the level of basketball they're playing, I did not see that in his first year with the Pistons at all.
No, this is a shocking turnaround. And I like that. Like, we ask him about it often. Like, we try to keep poking out of him. Like, how do you feel about this turnaround? How do you feel about getting to this point? He's like, bro, we're not going to get into that right now. He said, we'll reflect. We'll peel all those layers back. But right now we're here. We're focused on the moment and we're not going anywhere. I love how he said that, to start the presser at the end of the game. I really I don't have a vote, but if I did, I don't really see how you would have it against him at this moment. Like the way he's come in, and again, all the odds that were stacked up against him coming into the season, and then based on the majority of adversities he had to go through since then, losing, Ivy, Cade being down for several games, Tobias being in and out. They've had a bunch of things that have worked against him. And again, still being able to beat winning teams coming into adverse situations and still find a way to win, or at the very least look competitive. I don't really see what the argument is against him at this point. I said if he gets them up to 500, I think it should be a stamp. Like nobody, like I would have understood if you wanted to stick with Cleveland and Atkinson if they only got like 30, 35 and you sneak in a play-in spot. I would totally understand at this point. Nobody predicted that the Pistons would be as high as they are right now in the 5th seed. Like they're willing to bet a stack of bread on it to go. So like, I don't know. I think it should be, I don't want to say it's a done case by now because there's still a lot of basketball to play, but I don't know. I think he should be the favorite as it stands right now.
I agree with you. I think the nail in the coffin will be 45 is the number I'm looking at, because the last time the Detroit Pistons won 45 games in a season was the go in the work era. Yep. So you can draw those narratives if you have a vote in the media. And I think what Kenny's doing, it's incredible, but you have to add context to the situation. Yes. The reason why JB didn't have as many wins last year with that Cleveland squad was health. Darius Garland missed several games. Pretty sure he broke his jaw and he couldn't eat and he lost a lot of weight. Evan Mobley wasn't healthy. The Cavs have just had better overall health, and they've added more talent. Like you mentioned, DeAndre Hunter, Ty Jerome, who didn't play last night, really good backup guard for them. Donovan Mitchell, I think, has taken huge steps in just being kind of a closeout scorer. Like I think he had over 20 points in the 4th quarter, and he only had 18 points in the first 3 quarters. He was trying to close that game out, but I don't know if you saw Celtics and Cavs fans fighting with each other, crashing out that the Pistons beat them. It's getting to the point where Pistons fans are causing other fans that are above them in the Eastern Conference standings. You lost to the Pistons. Hey, man, you just lost too. The fact that that's a conversation, dude, it makes me laugh and smile at the same time.
I've been heavy on I did see that tweet. I tweeted the Joakim Noah gif where he's clapping at Chris Bosh and Mario Chalmers going back and forth. But I've been on Miami Heat Twitter because nobody has given that team more hell outside of Jimmy Butler than the Detroit Pistons. Whether it was the game-winning lob to Duran and then Spo calls a timeout when they didn't have one, Cade's game winner. They had another close game before that. The Pistons have given Miami absolute hell, and I think it was Miami Muse that said, "This is the play that broke me this season." It was Cade's. No, it was the lob where Spo called the timeout. That was absolutely hilarious. Pistons, and even JB kind of hinted at that because before the Luka trade, Cade had the 40 piece, and I think they beat the Mavs too. And I think Cody Davis had a joke for him. He was like, "Oh, y'all breaking up franchises now, huh?" He's like, "Hey, they just got to be better. It's not our fault."
So, yeah, get Mike Brown fired too, Jaden.
Hey, you know, we shaking some things up now. That's all part of breaking history. Pistons are doing some great things right now.
Yeah, they beat the Bulls and Zach LaVine gets traded. I'm not talking about chaos. Good Lord.
We just lining up the facts. That's all we can do.
Man, the fact that the Pistons are just causing so much chaos. It's honestly funny because last season was just chaos and torment itself. But yeah, now that you mentioned Heat, the Miami Heat is a fan base playing the Detroit Pistons. Tim Hardaway Jr. went on his Tracy McGrady type shit and hit I don't know if you remember that game where he just went berserk for 3. Cade hit that game winner. The Duran lob and then pulled a Chris Webber, no timeout. If I remember watching a Miami Heat stream, and this guy was just crashing out to the point where the whole screen went black. Pretty sure he punched his computer. That's how mad he was. But hey, man, love to see it.
This is a true turnaround, man. Like you said, nobody expect. We would have been fine if it was 30-35. You sneak in, to the 10th spot right now. The Pistons are not just a Cinderella story. They're a good basketball team with some good players taking some marginal steps forward right now. It's a beautiful thing to see.
So Just a quick question from Anthony Vital, watching on Twitter. He wanted to know if Tobias had any update with his Achilles tendinopathy, if you knew anything about that.
I don't think so. I haven't got a word about it. When he popped up on the report, I was kind of surprised because I didn't remember seeing him like fall or anything substantial in the last game. Nothing at the moment right now. We'll try to get a word from as soon as we can. I mean, they'll be on the road, so I don't travel with the team. So I'm sure somebody else will have an update, but as soon as we do, we'll be sure to get that to you guys as soon as we can.
Yeah, I think the injury reports, especially on the road, they come out like every 2 hours.
Yeah.
Which if you guys know where to find the injury reports, it's free to everyone. It's like public information. I'm not sure a lot of fans know that. Like if they knew that, they probably wouldn't bug you guys so much. But like honestly, like if I can find it, like you guys can probably find it. I did want to talk about Marcus Sasser. Now, obviously, he did not have the best game last night, but the two games against the Pelicans and the Spurs, I thought were some of his best games of the season. So I wanted to ask you, like, do you think he deserves a bigger role? Just kind of obviously he's out of the rotation. He's in a really weird spot. You got Tim, you got Malik, even Jaden Ivey when he was healthy this season. Like, you think there's room for a Marcus Sasser with the playoffs coming up?
It's kind of tough. I mean, if Cade is healthy, you bring in Dennis Schroeder for a reason. You didn't just bring him in to, kind of suffice for the rest of the regular season. Those are the kind of names you bring in to have, the right depth going against winning teams like Milwaukee, New York. Those are the kind of teams where you need a guy like Schroeder in the back. You saw the kind of game he had too, had a double-double. Like he's really taken some strong steps forward. But back to Sasser, I really love what he's done. Those games against, the Spurs and against the Pelicans where, he's been in and out of the lineup, even going back to the start of the season where, we asked him a lot about, growing and developing as a pass first point guard and adjusting to that role. It was very clear that it took him a while to really get comfortable with doing that. So to answer your question directly, I don't know what the role would be for him if your guys are healthy at the moment. Like obviously now it makes sense obviously to play him 20 plus minutes, but I don't know. I think it would be a little tough, especially if he's not on the heater like we saw in those two games. Like if he's missing and if he's cold, if he's not playmaking, it's kind of gonna be tough to find ways to fit him in. I do like when he's staggered in with Dennis Schroeder, where he's the two guard, where he doesn't have to take the responsibility on of being, the table setter to get guys in their spots. When he can just come in and shoot and play free, like that's when he's dangerous. His handle is very underrated. He does an unbelievable job of creating space, especially with that step back three. But I don't know. Yeah, with playoff time, like JB kind of talked about a lot of this. He said, like, listen, Sass has been in an up and down scenario, but he's been a great professional with dealing with it all and preparing for it as well. Because like we talked about all of this throughout the season. And if you kind of get, shocked in the moment or after the fact, that means I didn't do my job in preparing you guys for these kind of scenarios. So I think JB's done a good job of that. Sass has done a good job of responding, but playoffs is playoffs. It's a different animal, and you want your heavy hitters out there. You don't really have a lot of time to tinker with different things. You kind of got to have formulas and lineups set. And I think it might be a little tough trying to find some room for Sass if these guys are playing as well and if they're healthy.
Yeah, I think his situation it's tricky for a coach like JB. But I will say, like, there have been times this season where maybe Tim's just not having like a night where he's shooting the ball. Like last night, it's like that's Tim Hardaway at its peak, like a flamethrower from three. Like when he's that hot, it feels like he's not going to miss. But there are nights where he only has maybe like 8 to 10 points and he's just not feeling it. But I will say, Alan brings up a good point. With Sasser, he said Sasser was still able to contribute defensively since he matched up with smaller guards. He could stay in front of Garland and Mitchell and help to earn the star. He also kind of took the challenge a couple of times when he was being switched on DeAndre Hunter. They had to actually do a coach's challenge. Like I think defensively, sometimes people don't really think of a Marcus Sasser right away. They think of like an Asar or a Ron, but I think for his size, only being around like 6'1", 6'2", he does a really good job of just fighting over the top of screens, and defensively, I think he's a little bit underrated in that aspect. But I can understand like maybe you don't really know where to play him, but playing him off ball, I think is a strength. So maybe if Tim's not really feeling it that night, maybe you kind of get desperate and say like we need some offense. Maybe Sasser has it tonight. Maybe you can find him a good 5 to 10 minutes a night. I don't know. I'm not a coach. That's just kind of like my opinion overall, but like he's still talented. Don't get me wrong. He's still on a rookie deal. I'm sure the Pistons front office still values him as a player because like a player like that in the open market and free agency, you're not getting them for like what the Pistons are currently paying him on a rookie deal. Like I bet you if Sasser, and I've had this opinion, this take in the chamber, and people might call me crazy, but if Sasser was in Boston, he would basically probably play the Peyton Pritchard role and thrive in it.
Yeah, I'm with you on that for sure. And I like the defensive comparison that you have because even if he's not, a lockdown guy on the ball, like if you see guys like Ivy, I kind of look at it the same way. Even if he's not, able to stay in front of his guy, for each stretch of possession, but if you can play passing lanes and get your hand on a couple deflections and help create that transition offense that JB loves to play, that can change a whole tide of a game. I actually asked him about that after the Pelicans game because we've seen that. Like I asked him, like, what does it mean for you as a reserve whether it's you or it's Ron or Bees when he's red hot, your ability to change the tide of a game in just 5 minutes or a couple possessions. He's like, yo, that's our job. We're the guys that want to come bring the energy. We see when the guys aren't feeling it or when things aren't going how we want it to go. We look at each other and say, okay, it's time to get going. And for the past several games, they've been the ones to lean on. I mean, even in the Cavs game, like Asar and Holland, like Ron had the transition dunk. He played some good defense. Same way, played in good passing lanes. That goes to the great coaching that JB has done this season. And again, even if these guys aren't locked down, we see the buy-in from top down of everybody wanting to play, Detroit Piston defensive basketball, which has been the staple of their identity. So I do think that could be a place where he, like you said, maybe gets 5-10 minutes in a spot if they need it. And JB has also shown that he's not scared of trying that kind of stuff too. So again, it's a tough scenario, but I could see where you're coming from, where maybe they just need some juice, and these are the guys that can get it rolling so the other guys can get popping too.
Yeah, that first Milwaukee game where he came in and he was just hitting shot after shot after shot because Tim didn't have it that game, obviously. Yep. I think that was the game where Ron gets fouled and we don't make the free throws and they win in overtime. But like, I think those are situations where, the coaching staff will look at like, maybe, a vet's just not hitting the shots or injuries happen. We know that. Hopefully no more injuries happen. But, overall, I think did want to touch on him for a little bit because I looked at his like 2-game split. So it was like 70% from the field, 70 from three, and like a 92% true shooting percentage. Like he was just on some video game type shit. It was like wild. And of course I put that out and he kind of had a stinker going 1 for 9 last night. But hey, it's my fault. It's my fault, guys. If you want to point blame, I was buying into the Sasser 6-man hype a little bit, but I still really like him as a player, man. It's just I think if he had more of a consistent role playing off ball, he would cook. And I think I lost Eric for a minute. Yeah, we did lose Eric for a minute. He froze. Okay, we're back.
Oh, my back now? Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Goodness, yeah, what happened there?
Froze a little bit. Hey, man, it happens. It happens.
No, good.
I was going to say, man, like, he freezes up right before the Shaquille O'Neal topic. Like, holy.
Oh, yeah. I ain't going nowhere for that. Yeah, please. Let me strap in. Get it together, Xfinity. I ain't going nowhere for this one.
All right. So you guys are probably wondering, why are we talking about Shaq? We talked about this last month. So this was a post that I collaborated with the friends over at Basketball Coverage. We do a really good job of just covering the NBA. And, he puts in this graphic he made in the last 24 hours. Shaq has not only called the Pistons boring to watch, but also congratulated Chauncey Billups returning around the Detroit Pistons. So Shaq saw this comment on he saw this post on Instagram because Basketball Coverage had the balls to tag him. Shout out to him for that. So Shaq replies to this post on Instagram. Not about the listings. I only pay attention to champions. I'm not a regular season earthling, not you. All you got is your little Instagram page. So do what you do, blogger. Don't worry about this first ballot Hall of Famer. Get your followers up. Before we get into it, Shaq kind of like reminds me of a third grader that trying to like diss you back. Like I had a really hard time. Like I had to read it like 5 times. Obviously he doesn't care about the regular season. He only pays attention to champions. What happened to 04, bud? But
you don't want to go there. You don't want to open up that book.
I wanted to get this like your overall thoughts, like with this, response with Shaquille O'Neal talking about the Detroit Pistons. He's still not giving them any sort of recognition. He's not paying attention to them. He doesn't even want to watch them.
Yeah, you couldn't have put it no better. I was literally gonna say he sounds like a high school girl or like the teen nerd on social media talking about get your followers up. You're a grown man. You flex being a Hall of Famer, and the response and clapback you have is get your followers up. Bruh, this isn't even like he tried to stage it like, oh, I only care about champions. Like, bruh, this isn't even like a ring culture argument. This is just you being lazy and embarrassing and shaming and disgracing this business. Like, I talk to my friends about this all the time. Like, I love where I'm at in my career. I love being a beat reporter. I love having a little bit of influence in a business and a sports that I love and I've loved since I was a kid. Like, this means everything to me being here. And somebody like Shaq and even like Stephen A, like it's been a wild few weeks for sports media in general. These guys are the worst kind of representation for sports media right now. Like, it is disgusting seeing the stuff that they can be wrong about. Like, and let's be clear too, we're not always right. Like I've had terrible takes. I called Paul Reed a 7-footer before I came on here. I was wrong about that. But I'm at least man enough to own that and say, you know what? I didn't get that one right. I was off. I was looking at something different. That's on me. Shaq literally said the team was under 500. He said Chauncey was the coach. He has just been wrong and wrong and wrong. And instead of being a man and saying, oh, wow, you know what? They're better than I thought. Or you know what? Maybe I was just off base on that one. He's embarrassingly doubling down by saying, I don't watch Piston basketball. I don't watch Detroit. I only care about champions. Bruh, you're a Hall of Famer. If you don't care about regular season, if you don't care about up-and-coming teams, if you don't care about any of that, why are you in the business in the first place? Go do commercials. We know you got 3 million endorsements in commercials. Go do that. Don't come over here and dumb down the product just because you're not doing it for no valuable reason. Knock it off. Like JB said it perfectly during his OKC crash out, in the post game. We're a young team that's bringing something beneficial to the league, and they are. The Pistons don't play like every other team. They emphasize defense. They emphasize team basketball. They're growing young players. What they're bringing to the league is 100% great for the NBA. And you would think a Hall of Famer from the old school era would be able to appreciate that. And you too lazy to turn the TV on, get your facts right, or at the very least have a 3x5 card that says JB Biggerstaff is the coach. That's too much for you to do, Shaq. That's too much to ask for a Hall of Famer and a 4-time champion, Mr. Barbecue Chicken. Embarrassing, bro. It's absolutely embarrassing. Like I said, I know I'm just little old me, doing my job in this position, but I take so much pride in this. And I just wish people like him, like Stephen A., these guys in these national positions, cared enough to bring some kind of integrity to this business, because that shouldn't be too much to ask for.
Yeah, I mean, you don't like. I watch a lot of NFL. No shot you would have people from the NFL on a podcast if they had a podcast. Kind of just dog a team.
Never.
Like even though I'll use this team as an example. Like you could dog the Cleveland Browns for the Deshaun Watson stuff and them kind of just being a dumpster fire, being the laughing stock of the NFL for several years. obviously, I think the only person that really did that was Colin Cowherd, but it doesn't really count. But like Shaq's comments, the fact that one, he saw our post and he saw not only like Pistons fans, but casual NBA fans saying this is why ratings are down. Shaq and Charles don't even pay attention to the games. I've actually, said on TV, but we don't watch the games. We're not even paying attention. Like you have Chuck watching golf or watching hockey or something like that. Like they're not watching the games. These guys get paid tens of millions of dollars to be quote unquote analysts. The only analyst in that studio is Kenny Smith. At least Kenny Smith tries to break down the game. He tries to find positive narratives. Like I think inside the NBA, it's a very entertaining show if you're a casual basketball fan and you want to just listen to, two old men bickering about I have 4 rings, you don't type of shit. Like I used to love it growing up as a kid. I thought they were funny. I thought it was entertaining. But the older I get, and it's not just a Pistons thing. Like someone left it in the chat, like OKC is playing good basketball. Boston is creeping up on the Cavs for the 1 seed. The Bulls, as of late, have just been going crazy. There are so many positive teams in the NBA right now, like the Houston Rockets being the number 2 seed. Just being on a tear right now. Like this isn't so much me coming up here as a Piston fan being upset.
Right.
It's just as a basketball fan that enjoys the NBA and enjoys the product, it gets watered down when you have guys on national television and you have a podcast saying, I don't know who the coach is. They're not even over 500. And mind you, like those comments last month or when they were on that 5-6 game winning streak. And like his host had to look it up. He's like, yeah, they're 5 games over 500. He's like, who cares? They're not winning a championship.
Right.
Like that was his like a rebuttal. It's just like if that's the way you're going to be, then just kind of have like that, Mark Jackson type of role where you only come and show up for the NBA finals. Like if you still want to do basketball, it's cool, but just show up during the NBA finals. Give your seat to someone else that wants it, that lives, breathes basketball, and can, bring more of a positive light to the league. Like they're going to be on ESPN next year. Think ESPN's going to put up with that shit?
You really not gonna happen.
Like everything. This is completely different. Everything Stephen A is doing with LeBron right now. Like Adam Silver literally had a press conference with NBA media, and someone asked him that question, and he said, "I was in a boardroom and my phone was blowing up because of the Stephen A and LeBron shit." I'm sorry, like ESPN is not doing a good job of representing this league. It's turned into hot takes. It's turned into you make this about you. Like the All-Star game was a perfect example. Like I don't want to see Shaq, Kenny, Mr. Beast, and Kai Sent during the All-Star game more than Kevin Hart. Like I want to see these players actually play. Like I think the NBA has done such a bad job of marketing this game where they think it's more of an entertainment business, like a WWE,
right?
Where it's more about the players. You have to make it about the players, and I think that's what Adam Silver's had a really hard time of realizing is like we're gonna do all these tournaments, we're gonna make this an entertainment business. It's not that. Like before he was commissioner, David Stern did a really good job of marketing the players.
Yes,
they were starting to get paid with the new TV contracts. The contracts started to get bigger, but ever since Adam Silver is like really taken over, like it's kind of just been like a clown show and a circus show with these debate shows, and it's just like Shaq kind of falls under that same kind of category as a Stephen A, because these guys, like, we come to you for analysis of the game, and we don't even get that now. We just get you, kind of making jokes for 2.5 hours on a night-to-night basis.
Yep, it kind of adds to the whole Gilbert Arenas fiasco that I had to go through and whatnot. Like, but Shaq is on again. He'll flaunt over guys like Gilbert Arenas or Chuck. I have 4 rings. I'm a Hall of Famer. Okay, bruh, if you're a Hall of Famer, if basketball has meant that much to you, you should still be dedicated enough to know the coach of a team that you're talking about, especially when you're in the same segment saying Isaiah Stewart is my favorite player on the team. You just had Cade Cunningham on your set in TNT, a month before that in February for All-Star bidding, where you said, "You're an All-Star. you could tell even in that question that he didn't really know much about Cade. What's your definition of an all-star? You didn't really even, same thing. He didn't know the Pistons record. He didn't know Cade's stat line. He didn't know nothing else about except how to tell him or ask him what's his definition of an all-star. Like, it's embarrassing, man. Like, I remember watching, I didn't watch it on TV, but I watched Brian Windhorst say this is where NBA media and TV needs some balance, where yeah, if we were to just talk basketball from top to bottom, the ratings would be terrible. And I'm sure we agree with that because we've had the eras of Around the Horn and it was PTI where those are the focal points of ESPN. Now it's Kendrick Perkin and friends, and that's what we're doing. So, like, I just feel like if you want to talk about balance, talk to the people that you work with. We know that the balance is necessary, but y'all are not providing that right now. I feel like this is where, like, I know this is such a buzzword, but this to me is where things like cancel culture is 100% necessary because the power is in the people to say, you know what, Shaq, turn the TV off. We're done with whatever you're doing because it's clear you don't know what the hell you're talking about and you're not even trying to learn. I wish people would be able to band together enough to have the power and the influence to say, you know what, we're not watching that until you understand why you're in this position. Like, we're feeding you viewership and money. Like, until y'all get it together, like, I wish the fans and the people could stand together and just like cut that crap out because they're the worst kind of representation in sports media right now, and it makes me sick. It's been a bad week for sports media over this past couple of weeks.
Yeah, like ESPN's like, okay, ratings are down. How do we get them up? I know. Let me make this about myself. And Stephen A has made a complete clown of himself. Basically saying there's like, I would have swung on him. No, you wouldn't have.
No, you wouldn't. Stop it.
No. Ever since he linked back up with Skip Bayless, like he's been like crazy, like criticizing LeBron. Like it's honestly crazy. Alan made a really good comment. Watch it if you guys are watching live on YouTube right now. About he was upset when JJ Redick became a coach. I actually think he's doing a great job, but he was one of the mainstream voices in NBA media. I will say the only ESPN analyst that I will actually watch his podcast is Tim Legler. He does a really good job of breaking down the NBA. He does a live podcast, I think 5 days a week on his own YouTube channel, breaking down the NBA. Like I've literally seen him have 25-minute segments about the Detroit Pistons, about all the other teams in the NBA. Like he actually gives the game its respect, and he's not into all these corny like headlines or clickbait or anything like that. And I think that's where the game needs to go back, because out of all the other sports league, like the National Hockey League, Major League Baseball, the NFL, the NBA is the only league where we have former players and former journalists just kind of tarnish the game. And I think it needs to change.
Can't even get players' names correctly during the draft. Like, can't properly get like the teams and roster names correctly. Can't get a coach name right. It doesn't make any sense. Like, yes, Brian Windhorst, we could use, you know, that balance. It would be helpful, but like y'all are not providing that at this point. And it seems like you're not even like if Stephen, like, I totally understand why Stephen A would talk about that on First Take. Bruh, y'all made that the entire show. You didn't just do that for 5 minutes and then go to talk about how the Rockets have been killing the past 12 games. You talked about LeBron's relationship with Jordan, how he looked on Pat McAfee, why he didn't go on other networks. Like, just knock it off, bro. And I will call out LeBron too, because he said Brian Windhorst has never been a friend of mine. Like, bro, you could have said that 10 years ago, because he's gotten his whole momentum in career off the back of having a relationship with you, and now you're all of a sudden denouncing him. Like, I ain't trying to hear that, bro. It's just messy all around, bro. It really needs a complete, just any Kendrick Lamar fans, you need to watch the party die moment right now for NBA media. It just needs a complete reset right now. It really does.
Honestly, man, I'm sure we could just go on like why the NBA media in general, why so many players have podcasts now. Like Draymond Green calls themselves the new media, because like I think players are sick of the way that they're covered. Like LeBron just decided to hire Steve Nash as his new podcast host, because like the reason why LeBron made that podcast was because he said, I don't like the way our game is covered by TV networks and national beat reporters. He wants this to kind of have a voice in that space of like breaking down plays, understanding basketball. And like, I think there's such a space for that of what LeBron's doing with this podcast. Like, I remember watching it with JJ. I absolutely loved it. I'm sure him and Steve Nash are going to do a really good job there as well. Like, you see so many former players and like reporters do podcasts now to the point where like I don't really think people are going to be tuning in to like TNT, ESPN. I'm so pulling for Amazon. I'm really hoping Amazon can just really bring back the game that I loved growing up as a kid. Like I'm expecting a lot of great things out of Dirk Nowitzki and Blake Griffin, calling games. So that I think that they'll do the game more of a service than what we've had over the last 5 to 10 years.
I think it should be. That would be a huge avenue. It's a big reason that wanted me to get back into sports media in the first place. Like I had worked, on AM 1130 WDFN. Like I had interned for Bleacher Report, and I kind of took a break for a few years. And like I kind of got inspired again when Cade got drafted, and I watched a narrative take a life of its own and rob him of Rookie of the Year. Like that, like again, it's not just the Piston fan in me. That is the sports journalist in me that says, wait a minute, y'all clearly are not watching the game. You're just echoing the same sentiment that you heard from somebody else because you didn't actually watch what these players are doing. And that just made me sick to my stomach. Like it made me work harder with my writing. It made me more disciplined with starting my own channel. Like as soon as I saw the stuff with Shaq, I recorded the video. I'm like, all right, I got to work harder. Like it really just makes me sick. Like LeBron said, the direction that this business is going is terrible. And shout out to everybody that's here now. Like y'all are the difference makers of why like these spaces are so important, because we're trying to give you the representation that this league, this team, the players deserve 100%. And we couldn't do it without y'all. So appreciate y'all for being here. It really does mean the world.
Yeah, we got 335 people watching us on a Saturday afternoon. So, I mean, shout out to the people in here. But I feel like these next two segments, they're just former players. So, dude, I'm just minding my business. Piston had an off day. Obviously, Gil's Arena, I think we both had our run-ins with. I don't know if I ever told you the story. So, when Gil was giving Asar some trouble last year, I clipped it. It went viral to the point where Gil said that he had people from Detroit tell him to come to a cookout. He says, like, but I know what that means. There's not going to be a cookout. I'm going to get jumped. The very next show, we got him to wear a Detroit Pistons Tayshaun Prince jersey as kind of like waving the white flag as a truce. He even had like shout out to Josiah. He's like, yo, bro, like relax on us for a little bit. Like we don't want the whole city of Detroit like freaking like the pitchforks out here. I know you've had your run-ins with Gil as well, with his comments about Cade's game is more big city type of bullshit. But this next segment, Tony Allen. Now, I'm sure a lot of you guys remember Tony Allen, first team all defense, really good defender in his heyday with the Memphis Grizzlies, just had his number retired by the Grizzlies. So shout out to him. So he kind of threw some shade at Tobias. And this is the quote. He said, any team with Tobias Harris on it, I ain't rolling with it. We expect a lot out of Tobias. He just comes in and does his job, and that's the problem. So what do you kind of make of these comments from Tony Allen and the guys over at Gil's Arena kind of, poking fun at Tobias Harris for just, giving you a good, 14-7 a night and not like kind of like doing more, as they said, because we expect more out of him?
It literally goes to exactly what we were just talking about. So let's take Tony Allen. First team all defense. He made that the quote. That was his career. He put all his pride in defense. He put all his pride in that being the backbone of that Memphis Grizzly team, who I think was there with him. I think Zach Randolph was there too. Like that was their thing. And his criticism, so again, of Tobias, I think he also talked about how much money he's making and his expectation. Well, if I was there on the couch, I would have asked him, how much money is he making now? because I guarantee he wouldn't know. He's making $50 million on 2 years. That's not that much money, even for the 2-year span. And on top of that, I've been saying it all season, Tobias Harris is playing the best defense of his entire career, and it's serving wonders for this basketball team right now. So again, if you do have a problem with teams that he's on and whatnot, you can maybe make that argument for what he was, the expectation that was put on him for Philly, which I think is more of a Philly problem than a him problem. But what he's doing right now doesn't mean anything to what you just said, because it's not factual. It's not the truth. The defense he's playing, the way his game has adjusted offensively, like he was for a while just kind of being used as like a standstill shooter, a stretch forward that's just creating his own stuff off the perimeter. But JB has adjusted his game to playing in the post, hovering around the rim, playing in the paint, and relying on defense as well. He's also having, I think, one of his best rebounding seasons. Like, those little intangible things, you would think the guy from the grind city Memphis Grizzlies would be able to respect and appreciate. It just shows you're not paying attention. Y'all just up there yapping. That's exactly what we're talking about. And I even messaged Josiah on his Instagram. I didn't think he was going to respond, but hey, get a Hail Mary when you can. I brought up the idea, bruh, bring some beat reporters on to talk about these things. If y'all don't want to talk about it, if you don't want to watch, that's fine. But if you want to help set up the next generation with, proper media exposure, or at least getting the proper coverage for these teams, bring somebody on to do a quick spot for 10 minutes. That's easy work. And I don't think anyone would say no, paid or not, whatever it would be. But y'all not even trying to do the work. You just up there yapping and saying whatever. Like I understand barbershop conversations having their value and like what they mean, but bro, you got a camera on you. You used to play for this team. Like, you have to have some kind of knowledge to what you're talking about. And y'all just yapping, like just being loud and wrong. Like, that was, I saw that clip, but I thought it was embarrassing. Tobias has absolutely outplayed all of that slander. I remember all the jokes when he got cut by Philly and he went in free agency, and everyone said, oh, the Pistons are going to overpay him and he's going to be the clown show. And Tobias has been fantastic for this team. He's been fantastic on all levels. And if anybody who doesn't know that, it's because you're not watching. And that's my problem.
I think when I saw this comment, Tony Allen is pocket watching, and he's pissed that Tobias has made over $300 million in his career, and he hasn't. That's the way I looked at it.
Right.
Has Tobias Harris underperformed in the playoffs as of late with the 76ers? You could have that argument. You could have that debate. 100%.
Sure.
But what he's done in Detroit is be that veteran presence, bringing professionalism, getting these guys prepared on and off the court, taking care of their body, being that veteran presence, leading, guys like Ron, Asar, all these young guys.
Mm-hmm.
And I was looking while you were talking. So did you know Tobias Harris right now, since the calendar year, is top 5 in plus minus in the NBA?
I did
not know who else that. Who else is top 5 in plus minus in the NBA?
Who?
SGA.
How about that?
Plus minus is a very good stat that tells you how productive somebody is. And to your point, defensively, I thought he's done a very good job this season. Rebounding the ball, he's done a very good job this season. And I honestly think once Jaden Ivey went down, his game stepped the fuck up.
Yes.
It really did. He became that second option next to Cade Cunningham. He's really taken off that scoring load off of Cade, so Cade doesn't have to take 35 shots a night.
Yep.
I think these comments by Tony Allen, it's kind of funny because Tony Allen was an elite role player in his heyday, really good defender. But like I saw these comments, and it's just like, I don't know if you go on Gil's Arena and you sign an NDA that you just have to fucking clown other players just to kind of get your point across to get some clicks. But like I honestly don't understand it. And like, shout out to Brandon Jennings, because Brandon Jennings played with Tobias Harris. They made the playoffs together. Oh wait, actually they didn't make the playoffs together, did they? Well, they played together.
They played
anyways,
together. They made the playoffs.
Yeah, they didn't make the playoffs. Reggie Jackson. I was misremembering. But Brandon Jennings is like, man, leave Tobias alone. Like, he's a good player. He's a good vet. Goes about his business, gives the team, the scoring load that they need. But I just think Tony Allen's comments were more of a thing of just kind of like pocket watching and a little bit of jealousy in that way. And you can't really blame Tobias Harris for getting paid. Like right now, Philly fans are probably saying Tobias Harris over Paul George. Give us Tobias Harris, because Paul George has been a disaster for Philly.
And this whole notion of, he just comes in and does his job, like he doesn't go above and beyond. Bruh, you never averaged more than 11 points on a team, like in your career. You've always been a pretty poor offensive player just from top to bottom. So if anyone also say, just come in and do my job, I'm sure there were some teams that could have used you or could have benefited from you being a better offensive player. So could one make the argument that you just did your job by only being reliable on defense? You can make the argument, because Tobias Harris, you can't say that for, at least not for this season. He's been impactful on both ends of the floor, and on top of being a leader and a veteran and, giving that off-court assistance for a young team to help them develop, instead of just being on these winning squads where you can blend in and only have one assignment on. Like, I think Tobias has taken on a big responsibility being on this team that you never really had to be a part of, as far as I remember from your career. It don't make no sense. Like you said earlier, like the NFL doesn't do this. I love watching Nightcap with Shannon Sharp and Ocho Cinco, because even when they're critiquing players, they'll still give them their shine and their credit. He did this in his career. He did this in his career. He's had this, but he could have been better here. Ocho Cinco goes above and beyond. Even when he's supposed to be criticizing, he gives more love than criticism during the show. And I love that. I appreciate and respect that. Like the egos that they remove. And then you have guys like Shaq who've been beefing with Dwight Howard over a nickname for years. Like, bro, knock it off, bro. It's so much embarrassment. Like that, you got to be right. It must be some kind of agreement that they have that we don't see. You just go in blindly to the show, make fun of guys, don't know what you're talking about, and you can collect a check and be good. I don't know. I'm so sick of seeing this crap, dude.
Literally, got our guy Pistons Jacob in the chat. If you haven't checked him out, had him on the podcast earlier this summer, and he just started his YouTube channel. Another Pistons content creator. I feel like we have so many in the community, and he left a comment. My dad has been on the No One Is Talking About how great Tobias defense train all year. Like, yeah, defensively, like I didn't really have that like on my bingo card of Tobias Harris stepping up defensively, because we saw him, in his first stint in Detroit when they did make the playoffs. Obviously, he was scoring a little bit more, but defensive, he wasn't really known for his defense. But I think as he's gotten older, he's added a little bit more weight. He's a smarter defender. I think he's not so much like a technical defender like some players on this team, but I think he just understands angles and just how to, stop players from getting into the post. Like, he's done such a good job of just being able to, stay in front of the, opposing power forward, even center sometimes. He's done a really good job. And like, he's had a couple like blocks this year where I didn't expect. I was like, yo, like, when did Tobias like start like blocking people like that? Because I don't remember that in his first stint in Detroit. But honestly, man, it's really crazy how former players just disgrace the game and just pocket watch and talk shit about other players.
Like I said, and I don't want to. I want to keep making this up. This could be the Rockets that we're talking about. This could be the Hornets we're talking about. This is not exclusive just because we're Pistons supporters and we watch the team and whatnot. This is something that is serving the whole league in a negative manner. Like, you should have some. Again, you don't even have to be fans of these guys. If you don't rock with Tobias Harris teams that he's on, fine, but have some kind of criticism that makes sense. Because if you strictly limited to, he's making all this money, why isn't he being this kind of a player? Because maybe he's not that kind of player no more, bruh. Maybe his expectation isn't that. Like, you have somebody else in Cade Cunningham who is that superstar paid money guy now. So you don't have those kind of same lofty expectations. And again, knowing what your identity was in the NBA, you should be able to appreciate somebody like Tobias, who's turned himself into a defensive-minded player who can also still get you some buckets on a night-to-night basis. Yeah, since the Ivy injury, like the running joke about with Tobias was corner threes and like his shooting and whatnot. Those jokes have gone away now. Like, I haven't seen that on Twitter. I've seen nothing but love and reverence for him. Like, that's been a constant appreciation for him and how he's been able to grow since then. But you would only know if you were watching, and we're seeing that now.
Yeah. Honestly, like I always thought he was more of a rhythm type of scorer. And I think that's why he struggled so much when Ivy was healthy. Because like Tobias was like a third option and Cade and Ivy were taking a bulk of the shots. And like I think that's why he struggled so much. So I kind of think like Ivy getting injured is kind of a blessing in disguise. If he possibly does come back for the playoffs, now you have Tobias more of in a rhythm offensively and defensively. We know what we're getting, but honestly, Tony Allen, man, like really good defender. I did not expect you to kind of like trash players like that, especially like a player that has kind of reinvented himself defensively because we really didn't expect that coming into the year.
No, like I said, he's not. So you have Shaq, who's the superstar Hall of Famer, and then Tony Allen, who's a role player. Like, you would think, like, maybe the role player would have a little bit more respect and appreciation as the guy who played on the team that was that underdog type. They were basically the Pistons of the West, like with how they were set up. Like, I love that team and how they were set up. You would think they would have some kind of respect to at least know what they're talking about when having these kind of discussions, but apparently I guess that's too much to ask for. I don't know. I guess we got to come save the day for him.
I guess, man. So I don't know if you caught Isaiah Thomas. He was on NBA TV this week talking with Channing Frye and Lauren Jabra. And he has this quote. We're going to put it on the screen. So Isaiah kind of took some shots at the Celtics. So I'm going to read the full quote for people that are watching live on YouTube right now. And this is about the Detroit Pistons kind of finding their identity. He said they finally found their way back home to Pistons bad boy culture, defensive rebounding and playing physical. That's who Detroit is, and that's who the city likes to see. Hey, if you want to shoot 53s, go live in Boston. If you want defense, hard work, rebounding, championship pedigree, come to Detroit. So I felt like, there's some context to the situation. Obviously, there's this Celtics documentary going on right now on HBO. They asked Isaiah to be a part of it. He declined because it's the same people that produced The Last Dance. And I think it kind of brought up some, I don't know, maybe a little bit of anger because they kind of set him up on The Last Dance. But what do you kind of make of Isaiah kind of taking a little shots at Boston for shooting so many threes?
It is kind of nasty how they play. I don't want to hate on it too much because, like, granted, if they're really damn good at it. Yeah. I mean, they set up very well. It's not like they just like play iso ball and they just hit step backs like constantly. Like, I do kind of appreciate the way that they at least set up like Al Horford for his open threes or Porzingis for his open threes or Pritchard for his open threes. Like, I'm not gonna say the industry plant's name because I'm so sick of him, but we've done a good job of not talking about Mr. White. So I have an appreciation and an understanding for why Boston plays the way that they do. Especially knowing that they can be versatile too with a guy like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown who can create their own shots for themselves and others as well. So I don't want to just limit them to that kind of a team, even though they do shoot a million threes a game. But they're also one of the better defensive teams in the NBA as well. I think they're top 5 in NBA defensive rating right now. They're a good team. I understand Isaiah taking a shot at it. And I understand, some players and some viewers kind of being tired of that. Like, that kind of goes back to what JB was talking about with how we're bringing something good to the team, because we're not just the team that shoots a million threes a game. Even if, I think Beasley obviously takes a high volume and Tim Hardaway takes a high volume, but they don't rely on that. Boston lives and they kind of die by that. We saw that in the last game they played against the Pistons. So, it can be a little tiring to watch as a fan. I definitely understand that. It serves to see something a little bit different. So I give the Pistons credit for being able to be different. I'm not mad at Isaiah for calling it out. It's some more detail that maybe needs to be provided to who they really are. But, it shout out to them for being able to, stamp the Pistons identity as well. But yeah, that was I definitely saw that on NBA team. That was a interesting shot that he threw at him.
If you guys haven't seen the video, I have it posted on my Twitter because Isaiah said that with his chest. Like he's so proud of this team. I know in previous years he was really disappointed the standard of this team, like going into the season, was like maybe winning like 28 games. He's like, man, the standard when I was playing was championship or bust.
Mm-hmm.
Is like the standard is just like really lowered. And I think when you watch this team, there's a lot of resemblance to, you know, previous Detroit Pistons championship rosters. Like I feel like so many old school players like love a beef stew, like a Rick Mahorn, like a Bill Laimbeer, because Isaiah Stewart kind of has like that throwback game. You have gritty defenders like Asar Thompson and Ron Holland who are just so much fun in transition and defensively. They can do so many things. And Cade Cunningham, to me, I feel like is such a old school player, and I'm surprised more older generation players aren't kind of gravitating towards him because he's not a follow baiter. He's not someone that tries to sell contact. He's not a player like a Jalen Brunson or a Trae Young, or we even seen Donovan Mitchell doing it last night, where, you know, he hears the whistle and he kind of just flails his body into the defender. Like the team, how it's constructed, has a lot of old school vibes, and I think that's why Isaiah likes it so much. Saying like they play hard, they play gritty, they just play the right way, and I think that's why he's so proud of this team. And the Boston thing, I could see why, because like I watched that game where they almost hoisted up 73s and they still lost the game.
Mm-hmm.
It was honestly crazy. Like I think Boston is really good, and I think that's where the Pistons are trying to be. They're trying to, you know, be with the Clevelands, the New Yorks, and the Bostons, which I kind of think New York's a little fraudulent to me.
Mm-hmm.
But I love that he just kind of took a little shot at the Celtics, because like I need those Pistons Celtic rivalries back. I don't know about you.
It's really interesting of how the identity of these winning Piston teams resemble each other so much. Like you said, relying on defense with the bad boys, having that dynamic backcourt, and then a front court that was willing to do all the dirty work at all times. You saw the same thing with the going to work guys, you know, Chauncey and Rip, the front court that was all time and unbelievable depth to go behind it as well. The exact same thing. And you're seeing that now with this Piston team as well. I remember when Cade had his rookie year and Isaiah interviewed him on NBA TV, and they talked about rookie of the year. You could tell like Cade's very professional. He's not going to crash out anytime soon like that, but you could tell like he was a little bothered by it. And you could tell that Isaiah felt the same thing, because in his rookie season, the exact same thing happened. He was clearly the best player out of his class, but impact on winning is what robbed him of the award. So yeah, these guys see a lot of themselves in this young team, and you can tell that they had the exact same feeling for the going to work guys. Like when they were able to have the gentleman sweep on Shaq's Lakers, like it clearly resonated with them, because they were disturbing the NBA the same way during the Bad Boys era when they were keeping Jordan on ice, and they were beating the Lakers then and beating all the other contenders. So like I think that's the coolest part about the Pistons when they see this success, outside of maybe like the Blake Griffin brief era, but like the championship contenders who really had a foundation set that was sustainable for years, they all have the same kind of championship DNA, even the all-time great coaching. Because I think JB will be stamped as that in soon enough time. You know, obviously, you know, rest in peace, Chuck Daly, Larry Brown. And I feel like JB is kind of cut from that same cloth. He maybe has a better reputation with younger players than Larry Brown does, but you know, I just think it's very interesting to see how their timelines and the similarities rely with one another with all three of these teams now at this point.
Yeah, I've had like some older viewers point out that like this team reminds them of the early Bad Boy days where they were finding out how to win and they had the pieces. And they were having success. I know I obviously wasn't born during the Bad Boy era, but I'm looking at this team and they remind me of the early 2000 Pistons, where they won 30 games and they kind of just surprised everyone and won 50 like the next season. Like that's where I kind of see this team. Like I know I've talked to some like non-Pistons fans. Obviously, they're like, yeah, like 40 wins. Like we're not really sure like how serious you guys are because they looked at the record of the Pistons. I think NBA University put it out. Like the Pistons had like a sub 500 record against teams that have over a 500 record. I think it was like 9-20. But I thought the Cavs game last night was a very good indication of what this team is and what trend they're actually like going towards because JB is like next man up mentality. I'm sorry. If that was that team last year, they would have lost by 30, 45 points easily.
No question.
Like the fight in this team and just the togetherness. Like when you mentioned it several times, when Beef Stew crossed up Evan Mobley, dude, Lindy Waters almost went like 10 rows. Like he jumped out of the freaking frame and Cade was going crazy. The calf looks fine to me. Like that whole bench was going nuts. Like you can just tell like the chemistry on and off the court is at an all-time high. And these guys like actually like each other. They're not like teams like the Phoenix Suns where like they just play basketball and they don't hang out with each other outside of like practice or playing games. Like these guys actually play video games together. I saw like a video earlier this year of Tim Hardaway Jr. and Malik Beasley golfing in Florida, just like fucking around. Like you can just tell like this team and the vibes and the culture that JB has kind of just created. Like all these guys want to play for him. And I think that's why they've had so much success this season.
Dennis Schroeder literally said that in the post game. That was the very first thing that he responded to. I think when Natalie asked him, you know, what is it about this team where you guys are able, you have this belief that you can just go in there and beat anybody. The very first thing he says is we all like each other. Like that chemistry serves a lot. JB has talked about that a lot, you know, when we talk to him, you know, post game and pregame. Like one of the things that he's excited about and the most happy about is the chemistry and the vibe of this team. You know, that is what serves you down stretches in the toughest moments of tough games. Like obviously it was helped them like early in the beginning of the season where Pistons were struggling to close games. Now they're able to withstand a 10-0 run by the best team or the second best team in the NBA and put up an 11-0 run right after that in the fourth quarter to respond without your top three guys. Like that goes a long way. And you just said it with Phoenix too. Like you can tell with this era of just microwaving teams together, that doesn't work anymore. Like even we're seeing it kind of now with teams like, you know, with Minnesota where they blow up their whole future to bring in Rudy Gobert or let Cat go or whatever they do. Like those moves are not serving right for the league. And it kind of hurts a bit of the development of your young star players in the same breath too. I mean, it's even more of a reason to appreciate a team like the Pistons, Shaq, because they're not doing those kind of things that you guys complained about for years. This isn't a microwave team. This isn't a team that foul baits. They don't shoot a million threes. They play, I love the term, and I'm glad it's getting stay up so much. They play true ethical basketball that a lot of you guys could respect if you just watched the game. That's all you got to do is watch.
Someone pointed out to me because they were watching the Cavs broadcast last night that once Dennis Schroeder hit that three, the Cavs broadcast went silent, and then Azar had that steal and the dunk. He's like, they didn't talk for like 2 minutes. They were stunned.
Oh, I need to see that.
Yeah, I was like, bro, that's hilarious. Because if you, I've had my gripes with like other teams, like play-by-play. I still say the Warriors have the worst play-by-play announcing team in the league. It's not even close. Like if you guys are bored one day and you want to watch a Warriors game, you want to talk about homers, like listen to those two. They're the worst in the league, and I think Cleveland is definitely up there with their play-by-play crew. I know a lot of people like really harp on like the FanDuel network, but I mean like George and Greg are mild compared to some other play-by-play guys in terms of like how bad, and they won't call stuff. Like they were silent. They did not call like the final minute and 20 seconds of the game because they were just shocked that has hit it.
Oh, is Fred McLeod still there?
I don't think so.
Yeah, he was one of my favorites when he was with the Pistons for a while. And I remember he went to Cleveland after that. But yeah, that adds to what we were just talking about, like how we just got teams and franchises shell shocked now. Play-by-play guys can't even do their job because this team is so good. I love that. All the narratives, all the jokes of, the Pistons being such a poverty franchise, like all that is melting away. And they were simply able to do it with team chemistry, a great coach, and just attention to detail on defense. Like that has served this team wonders to now be one of the most dangerous teams in the Eastern Conference right now. Like you didn't have to go overspend for somebody, you didn't have to trade for a Devin Booker. Like you were able to simply just focus in on details, play together, be together, and look at where they are now, chilling in the 5th seed.
Yeah, MB Wells says Fred passed away. I'm pretty sure I do remember that.
Oh, wow.
He passed away in 2019, from what I remember.
I didn't know that. Oh, wow.
Yeah, because I remember I used to post, like, when he was doing Pistons games of just, like, his play-by-play because he was so good at doing, like, play-by-play
fantastic
for the Pistons, and we would have, like, some of his family, like, reach out saying, like, "Oh, thanks for sharing that." He loved his time in Detroit and with Local 4, so R.I.P. to Fred, real Detroit icon and legend. What's that?
No, yeah, I was just gonna say he's a great, like, because I remember like it would be George on one channel, and then he would kind of be like the balance out because George was very like calm, and then Fred would be turned up. Get that wing stuff out of here! I used to love Fred McLeod. He was awesome.
Yeah, it was goated. Mm-hmm. So there was some salary cap news this week. I don't know if a lot of Pistons fans caught this. This comes from Bobby Marks, who is a ESPN front office just expert or an insider, if you want to call it that. So this is a tweet from him. He says, to no surprise, NBA teams were notified that the salary cap for next season in 2025-2026 is expected to increase 10% from the past season. Sources tell ESPN. The current projections is the same that they were the same that were given to the teams in the offseason. So the current salary cap this year was a 140 million.6, so it's going up to 154 million.6. Then you get the luxury tax at 187, first apron 195, and second apron 207. So I did want to kind of bring this up because I looked at the Pistons cap space, and their expected cap space is around 24.6 million, and there's been a lot of fans. I'm sure you've had these conversations with Malik Beasley, Tim Hardaway Jr., and now even Dennis Schroeder. So you see like this expected cap to go up over $14 million. Do you think that there's a possibility that this team could maybe be an over the cap team if they want to keep everyone?
Yeah, I think that's something that worries me about them. I mean, that's one of the tough problems about having such good chemistry with everybody in the locker room, because when somebody goes, how they respond is going to be the question. So, looking at the situation for Malik Beasley, he obviously wants to stay. It's not going to be cheap to bring him back. Tim Hardaway Jr. also, he's going to be a free agent as well. Like there's going to be some tough conversations that they're going to have. Whether they're going to be over the cap, it all depends on how like friendly they want to be. I mean, I think even Jay Ivey, I think, is up for an extension as well. Dern, I think they're going to have conversations with. It could be a tight situation for them. I mean, it all just kind of depends on how, flexible the guys want to be. I mean, obviously you want to take advantage of your market because you just never know. But yeah, those. I don't want to rule it out either way. It could be possible because, granted, I don't think it's a great idea to, run it back with the exact same team you had. It does help to bring in some new talent and, help, booster that up. But, Trajan, he's definitely got some tough questions to answer. I think it could be either way, to be honest.
Yeah, so I have Spot Track pulled up. If you guys haven't used Spot Track, I definitely use it. It's probably my favorite website in terms of just having like accurate like cap sheets and stuff like that. So for the Pistons right now, they currently have negative $30 million in cap space because they have cap holds. So the cap holds they have are Tim Hardaway Jr., Dennis Schroeder, Malik Beasley, Lindy Waters, Paul Reed, and Donis Jenkins, and they have an incomplete roster charge on their books, which I think is because of the Paul Reed stuff, which, $2.5 million is $2.5 million, but that's where the cap holds are. You do have bird rights to Tim Hardaway Jr. You have early bird rights for Dennis Schroeder, which I think can be kind of sneakily underrated. Non-bird rights to Malik Beasley, so he'll be a unrestricted free agent. So you're going to have some probably competition with other teams in the NBA. Lindy Waters, you do have his bird rights, and then you have non-bird rights with Paul Reed. Don't really know if you want to bring him back, and then you have two-way rights with Donish Jenkins. So it'll be really interesting to see. I mean, the Pistons could theoretically let everyone go but Malik Beasley and kind of free up that cap space that way, which I think the guys in the front office do a very good job because like the Paul Reed stuff, I remember people like crashing out and freaking out when we let him go, and then they reconstructed it to save cap space so they could go out and get a Dennis Schroeder. Like I feel like they're like 3 steps ahead, and fans are just like, oh, that's why they did it. Like it's honestly crazy.
Yeah, Trajan's done a really good job. I think he understands that things have accelerated quite a bit. I think he understands the timeline of their winning expectations and a lot of these roster decisions that maybe he could have slept on possibly for a year, maybe 2. He don't really have that at this point. I think he understands that things are moving a little faster than expected. I think, guys are sitting here ready to win. And like, you don't want to go from a winning situation to, fall out of the, play in tournament next season. I think he understands, how important that is to these guys right now. I definitely can see a lot of the names that you mentioned, guys that'll probably be guys that they're probably waving goodbye to. But the playoffs is going to explain a lot. I think really if they're able to push a team, obviously depending on who they play, but if they're able to push the Knicks or the Bucks or the Pacers to 6-7 games, that's going to show that, maybe you might want to look around and try to add somebody else, or maybe you're comfortable with just finding that one other piece to just attach on to some of the other foundational guys. But if they get swept, then, maybe some tougher conversations are going to be had on how they need to be reconstructing things. But yeah, I think the playoffs are going to determine a lot in terms of how they're going to address this upcoming offseason.
Yeah, I did want to bring it to fans' attention. I don't really know if they were aware that the cap space went up. I don't even think fans are aware that the Pistons actually have negative cap space right now with all the cap holds. But those can go away within a week of free agency. Honestly, they could just renounce the rights to everybody. I did actually go down the rabbit hole with Malik Beasley for fans that are interested in that. So Malik Beasley, the biggest contract he ever signed was with the Minnesota Timberwolves. So it was 4 for $60, so $15 million a year. Mm-hmm. And I was having a conversation with one of our subscribers in our group chat that we have. And I was saying, I think Malik gets a 3-year deal. And I think it's in between maybe 30 to 45 million. Like, I think that's like where the price point for him would be. And I think if you look at it, 3 years to me is you get him 29, 30, 31, still in his prime. And, if he produces, maybe you want to bring him back for another contract. But I know a lot of fans have been really locked in with Malik Beasley for a majority of the season. I get it. I understand it. But those are the type of like contracts I'd be looking at, like anywhere from like a 3, possibly 4-year deal for a guy like that has really made an impact this season.
Yeah, he's been too valuable. I mean, you could argue he's been probably, I saw Corey Woods tweet this. I think you could make a argument that he's maybe the best value free agent signing this season. Like, nobody expected him to be as dangerous as he's been. One of the best shooters in basketball, a 3-point specialist. Even his ability, like, he had a lot of drives yesterday against the Cavs where he's got that like little floater down, being able to absorb contact against bigger defenders and still finish strong. Free throws are coming together a lot better. He had a little struggles with that early in the year. Yeah, he's been absolutely unbelievable for this basketball team. The situation definitely is not going to make it a little easy in terms of how they round out this roster, but yeah, that's probably going to be the toughest conversation, whether between him, Jaden Ivey. Like, I think those are the 2 top names of probably the toughest decisions they're going to have to make in terms of the next couple of years and where they go.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they're extension eligible, Jaden Ivey and Jalen Duren. I mean, you could let them just hit restricted free agency maybe when you have a little bit more cap
Right.
and give them extensions that way, which they could possibly do. I mean, we've been talking about contract extensions like all year. Trajan and company could say, you know what, we don't have the cap space this year, fellas, but we still like you here long term, and we can have those conversations going into not this summer, but next summer. You never really know, but they want to bring that to the fans' attention. We do have some fan submitted questions because I let them know that you were coming on, and they know you work for Clutch Points, and they actually saw an article. I believe it was a Clutch Points article. I think it was about Naz Reid earlier this season. So obviously he's on a $15 million player option. And I've seen a lot of Pistons fans kind of talk about him. So what do you kind of make of Pistons fans wanting a guy like Naz Reid if he does opt out of his player option?
Yeah, I think it's going to be tough for Minnesota to bring him back. I get it. I see the allure for sure. I think his game really, really works in that 4 spot. Like, I think there's a very realistic future where you could use Tobias Harris off the bench if you were to find an upgrade. And I feel like if there's any area of their roster that they could shake up and maybe add in a different player without messing up too much of the foundation, I think he's one of those guys that makes the most sense. Money wise, it could be tough because he's not gonna have a shortage of options going into free agency. He's been fantastic this year. He's a really good player, very versatile on both sides of the court. I wouldn't rule it out. I don't think it's too much of a stretch. Again, I think Trajan understands how important basketball is to Detroit. These young guys who really want to win, and they're finally getting a taste of it right now. And again, I just think he would be a very perfect fit in that position at the 4 spot for this team moving forward. Again, I don't think it's a stretch to think that maybe they could be one of those teams that are interested. I haven't dialed in too much in terms of like off-season activity just because it's playoff time now and I didn't want to, look too far ahead. But yeah, I don't think it's too much to say that the Pistons could be like, the Pistons are not a dead end team where like we're used to, old Tracy McGrady's and Chris Webber's coming here. Like, no, I think a lot of teams now are looking at what the Pistons are doing. And I think that they could, take them serious as an option in terms of free agency.
So I do see Alan talking in the live chat right now saying that Naz has declined his player option. Now he's expected to, he hasn't yet.
Right.
He has until, if we look on Spot Track right now, the deadline for him to decline his player option is June 30th of this year.
Okay.
So he's expected to. He hasn't yet. I think a lot of fans are expecting him to decline that player option.
Right.
Now, $15 million. I think he's a player in the open market that could easily get 20, 26 million a year. I really do. I think he fits on every NBA team. I was talking with our friend Sean Murphy last week. I told him, I said, imagine Naz Reid and Victor Wembanyama on the front court. Like, that would be ugly. I understand why. I understand why Pistons fans are looking at a Naz Reid. He makes so much sense at that 4 position. He can really spread the floor, has a really nice handle. My only thing is, like, I think if you do want Naz Reid, the other conversation you have to ask yourself is, okay, this guy wants to get paid. Who are you trading to get a Naz Reid?
Right.
Where are you going to clear that cap space up? That's a whole completely different conversation.
Right.
And I think sometimes fans get a little bit unrealistic when they see a guy that might be available because, like, we know, playing NBA 2K isn't the same as, dealing with teams, dealing with general managers to free up cap. I'm sure Minnesota doesn't want to lose him, but the way their cap is, they're in cap space hell with Rudy Gobert and Anthony Edwards and Jaden McDaniels. Like,
right.
They're going to have to say goodbye to him, but maybe they can possibly, get something for him on the way out. You never really know. They could trade him before he decides to decline his player option if they know.
Yeah, that's the delicate part about like where this team is at. Again, the chemistry that they have means so much, and you're gonna have to break up a lot of that in order to bring in somebody like a Naz Reid. I think that's the best part about, to me, Cade Cunningham's like trajectory is the fact that he has been so great and can still get so much better. To me, it removes the necessity to bring in a guy like Devin Booker. You don't have to rush to bring in a guy like that. There are some teams that could use it. I think like Houston, they're missing that like alpha score on a consistent basis because Jalen Green's not that. So they kind of have to make one of those decisions and parting with one of those or some of those guys. The Pistons, I don't think are at least not in an immediate position where they have to make that kind of a plunge. Nas definitely gonna, cost a lot and cost some pieces potentially, but I don't think, again, it doesn't have to be to the extent of, like, you hear a lot of talking heads like on the radio say, you have to bring in that star kind of player, whether it's Lauri Markkanen or Booker or those kind of levels. Like, you really don't. Like, I think their growth has shown that they can be somewhat patient and just find those right pieces to kind of add into the foundation instead of blowing up the foundation for that big name that they think is going to put them over the edge in the next couple of years. Like, you can win a ring in a year, but like, you could be in hell for the next 5 to 10 because you blew up your foundation to get there. And while a championship is good, you don't want to go back to where you were just a few or like several years ago where you're struggling to scrape into the playoffs because your foundation is, tanked off. So, those are the kind of important conversations that Trajan is going to have to deal with and address this offseason.
Yeah, like I like Nas a lot. I just think it's a little unrealistic, especially with the Pistons cap, and like I don't really think that Trajan seems like the type of GM to possibly trade some pieces to get a guy that maybe he's not that familiar with. Not to say that Nas wouldn't be a good fit; he'd be an excellent fit.
Right.
But I would just kind of like wonder, like Isaiah Stewart and Nas Reed on the same team. Like if you got to keep both of it, it's kind of like the Spider-Man meme almost. Obviously, Nas is a much better 3-point shooter on better volume, but I feel like if Stu shot the ball as much as Nas did, he could probably get up to that point, in my opinion, because Stu's got that strap from 3 if you leave him open. But did want to kind of touch on that. Fans are already looking into free agency and looking at it, trying to get this team over the top.
Of course.
So we have one more fan submitted question, and this player I feel like is very polarizing with the fan base. It's 50-50. It's Zion Williamson. Obviously, the Pelicans this year, I was completely wrong about them, Eric. I don't know about you. I thought a fully healthy Pelicans team could at least make some noise in the Western Conference. Obviously,
Me too.
They traded Brandon Ingram, Zion Williamson injured, DeJounte Murray injured, Trey Murphy injured. Like they've had a lot of injuries. They're going to be a lottery team this year. So I want to ask you this question, but before we kind of get into that, I want to break down his contract because his contract to me is very interesting. So he signed a $170 million contract in 23-24. And after this season, he's only going to be owed $126 million. But there is a stipulation with his contract, and I'm going to put it on the screen for people to see. So this is from Spot Track, and they kind of break down his contract so they put it on the screen for everyone to see. And if you're listening later on the audio side, so for his contract this year, he got it, as you can see, 24-25, 50% guaranteed. It was fully guaranteed this January. Now going into this year, 25-26, or I should say next year rather, 20% of that 20% of his contract going into next year only becomes guaranteed if he passes his weight point checks, which I think he did because he looked very slim.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at the other 40%, if he plays 41 games this season, he didn't hit it. So he's only going to get 20% of that salary that goes into effect into next season. And his salary next season is at $39 million.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is a very interesting case with Zion because I know a lot of fans are really high on him as a player. Like, kind of seeing his contract stipulations for next year, and obviously he's still old. I think 42 and 44 in 26 and 27. Is he a player that like if you're the Pistons, maybe you kind of look at as upgrading that power forward position?
You look into it, Sure. I wouldn't mind them looking into it. Again, it kind of just goes back to what it's going to cost to get him, because a guy that's, played 70 games in 2023, I think he played 61 in 2020, but outside of that, he's just been an injury plagued machine like his whole career. Um he's he's worth the risk just because like he's not Marvin Bagley. Like Bagley didn't have any kind of like game that was refined and like put together, but Zion's ability to get to the rim, his ability to play above the rim basketball, and I think if you put him around the right system, the foundation and coaching, you could get a much better defensive version of him as well, I believe. Like I think he would buy into a team and a system like what the Pistons have. But I don't know. Do I think he's on the move? Yes. I don't think he's staying in New Orleans. I think New Orleans is ready to blow things up very soon. I think CJ McCollum, who's still got, juice in his legs, didn't he get just a 40 piece against the Pistons when he last played? They have so much talent on that team from, like you said, Trey Murphy, Herb Jones. Like it's a lot of guys that could be best served probably in a different area. Because they're kind of just at a loss of direction. Yeah, I'm totally with you. I thought at worst they saw the 8th seed. At worst, I thought that's where going to be. I was very shocked, even with their injury concerns. I just didn't think they were going to fall as hard as they did this season. So, do I think he's going to be on the move? Yes. Do I think the Pistons will be one of those favorite options? Maybe not. But I mean, knowing where Trajan's connections are, leaving from New Orleans, how he pried away Fred Vincent. He was in discussions. The Pistons were discussions or rumors for a while about Brandon Ingram and whatnot. Regardless of how true they were, it makes sense because that's where he came from. So it wouldn't shock me at all if they were like rumored or in those discussions. But I don't think they'll be the landing spot where we see Zion. I don't see that being the case.
I don't either. Obviously, I think he's at least worth discussing. To be honest, I've never seen a contract like this in my life. I don't know about you.
Yeah.
Like 40% of his salary bonus he would get if he would have played 41 games this year. He's only played 30. So he's not getting that 40% bonus on top. Yeah, and if he makes all NBA, goes up from a 193 to 231. So he's not going to get the all NBA because he didn't play 65 games. So he's not going to get his full amount of his contract. I know he's always been a very big talking point, especially with certain people in the Detroit Pistons, this content creator and podcast space, which I get. When he's healthy, I think he's one of the better players in basketball, but that's the problem. He's not really the most available player, but when he is available, it's awesome. But I don't really think it's worth, mortgaging your future, because I think it would take a lot to get him, even at this stage. Because I was listening to Brian Windhorst and his podcast, and they said, like, if he did become available, a lot of teams would be interested. And I'm going to throw a team out there that I think will probably bite the bullet. It's the Charlotte Hornets.
I knew you were going to say that.
LaMelo and Zion together would just be instant chemistry. And I think the season they're having, they're looking for a better season that they've had. I didn't expect them to be this bad this season. Obviously, they've had a lot of injuries. Brandon Miller, LaMelo Ball. But I feel like Zion in New Orleans would actually, or Zion in Charlotte. I always get the two confused because they went from the Charlotte, Charlotte and the Pelicans kind of like switch cities. Like when I was a kid, like 5 times. I was like, okay, like this stay consistent. It confused the hell out of me. But I feel like Zion in Charlotte would be a lot of fun.
I'm all for it. I would like that a lot. I think he kind of fits that like that fun, I don't want to say run and gun, but they like playing fast breaking in space with a guy like LaMelo. But yeah, he's kind of in the same exact situation. He can't stay healthy either. And it's unfortunate because they already have a good young core. I'm kind of happy that Mark Williams didn't go over to LA because I just did want to see the Lakers get any more good fortune. And I like the way he kind of fits with LaMelo and Brandon Miller and the other, pieces that they have on that team. So I can see Charlotte be one of those teams that discussing like maybe try to make a play after him. But yeah, I feel like either way, especially for a team like Charlotte, that's not a team that can like kind of get him on a bargain or finesse his way over there. Like that's a team that's going to have to overpay, unfortunately. And that could put them in a tougher spot than they're already in, unfortunately, based on the team. So, yeah, I could definitely see a few teams that may, be interested in the services, but you can say that injury history is just the asterisk for everything. Like, he's worth the conversation, but it all depends on how much you want him and how much you're willing to risk, because he's such a mystery. Like you said, he could be a top 5, top 10 player for a week, and you may not see him for 2 months. Like him, Anthony Davis, Kawhi, like they're all cluttered in that same room, unfortunately, because those are some mad talented dudes.
Yeah, I think Charlotte could be a team to look out for, and I'll give you a sleeper team that I think, because Pat Riley lost a star. I think the Miami Heat could make some sense.
Okay. I can see that, him and Bam together. They could use some front court help out of that. He's a good offensive generator and initiator. That would make some sense. I would like that.
I think Miami makes some sense for Zion as well. I think I know Pistons fans, ask about him from time to time. This was a fan submitted question, obviously. If you guys ever want to, send in questions when we do these podcasts, you're more than welcome to. But when I saw this, I kind of rolled my eyes. I was like, yeah, I said, I think the move for Zion kind of passed the Pistons, especially the way they're playing. Like, maybe you tell me if I'm crazy or not. I like the way this team is playing, and I'd rather kind of just like sit back and evaluate this team and let them gel and grow together. Like, I'm not open to the Devin Booker, Lauri Markkanen, and Zion conversations right now. I'd rather just let this team keep playing team basketball together and like kind of have these conversations more in the summer of like what they possibly need. I don't want to break up this chemistry.
I don't think they have to. I feel like, well, I mean, based on how they play, they don't have to, because it's one thing to like, I kind of like talked about this before. Like, we see Cade, Star, Ivy, I think, answered a lot of questions, and it would be one thing if it was like just those two, and then you were like, hey, is Asar really what we think he is? Or is Duran really what we think he is? Like, they all are playing their best basketball right now and continue to get better week after week, month after month. Even Ron Holland, Isaiah Stewart showing to be one of the best defenders in basketball. Like, knowing that they've taken those kind of growths and making these kind of improvements make me exactly lined up with what you just said. Like, yeah, maybe a couple years ago, Devin Booker sounded great. The idea sounded great. At this point, I don't think they need him at all. Like, I just think Cade, I went on record and said I think he'll win an MVP at some point with his team. Draymond said he'll bring a championship back to Detroit, and I believe that. Like, they've accelerated so much. Like, so many of the questions that we came into this season with, like, is Biggerstaff the guy? Does the backcourt work? Will Duran take that step? How good can Ron Holland be? Like, all of those questions have been answered in glowing fashion. Like, we're not wondering about how good they could be or will they be good. It's how good can they be moving forward. So just roll with it. Just roll with it, especially knowing how, like, Detroit athletes in the city of Detroit, like, it means more when you can grow them within. Like, when you draft them and breed them up and grow them up, like, it means more than just signing them and bringing them for a couple years, hoping that they'll be happy enough to stay. Like, you don't need to worry about that. These guys all want to be here. They're all excited to play with each other. And I just think it's perfect based on this timeline right now. Like, they have the ability to be patient, and I think that's what they should be doing.
Yeah, I mean, like, I get, like, we have off-season conversations all the time. They kind of carry the podcast. I'd be lying to you if I said that they didn't. It gives us content to talk about.
Of course.
Even in your space of writing articles about, like, could they do it? Could they not? But just the way this team is gelling and playing, like, the win last night really showed me, like, what they have right now is special, and it would be very foolish to try to tinker with it, because it's team basketball, and it's something that we haven't seen probably since like the go into work era, since like we were kids. Like, those guys fought for each other, they played hard together, and it was just a next man up mentality. Like, each player played their role. Like, it's not something where like we need Cade to score 35 to win. Right. Like, night in and night out. Like, THJ was the hero last night. The night before against San Antonio, it was like Sasser and Duran, and I forget who else had 20 points last week, but like, everyone steps up when they need to step up. And I think that's what makes this team so dangerous. It's because you can maybe double someone, but there could be someone else on any given night to give you 20, 25 points.
Right. Yep, and that's you don't see that very often. Even the game where Ivy went down, like he was the leading scorer of the game. Even after the game was over, he had like what 20, 22 points, and they had enough balance, throughout the rest of the game. Even last night, they had 7 scores in double figures with THJ as the high man at 32. You had a double-double out of Schroeder, a double-double from Asar, along with 4 blocks and 2 steals. He was an absolute madman last night. Like it's just too much that you don't just say goodbye to. Like, yes, maybe a few years ago in the NBA, to hell with them picks, and you try to go all in for a championship. But I feel like some franchises take pride in growing something and being patient with it. And I mean, this patience is paid off to them being in the 5th seed of the Eastern Conference right now. And again, they're not just beating fluke teams, they're not just beating bad teams and struggling with the good ones. Beating the Cavaliers without your top 3 guys, beating the Celtics like a month ago, with your guys or your core together, that means something. Like being able to keep pace with OKC after Cade gets ejected, like that means something that you can do that. And that's just, I don't know, that's just not something that you need to mess with right now while the winning and the questions are getting answered right now for the franchise.
I was just thinking of the respective teams, the top 2 teams. Like in the Eastern Conference, you have the Cavs, who were built to the draft and made good acquisitions during the trade deadline. The Celtics were obviously, you have Jason Tatum, you have Jaylen Brown, you have your foundation pieces, you've made good trades, you've kept your cap space available. And you look at OKC, they've been built to the draft, and even the Houston Rockets have been built to the draft.
Yep.
The Pistons were built to the draft as well. Obviously, they haven't had the wins like those other franchises in years past, but this season you're kind of seeing what happens when you build a foundation and you add role players to complement your younger players. I think that's the way the NBA is heading. I think you're going to see less of these super teams being formed, and I think more NBA teams are realizing that we need to build through the draft. Make good, deadline moves like the Pistons did for Dennis Schroeder, basically getting them for free. You got Tim Hardaway Jr. Because you traded Quentin Grimes, and the Mavs had no need for him anymore. Like,
right.
I think the way that the Pistons are building is going to be long-term success. And I think, these past 4 years, obviously they were really bad, but like, I was just thinking like of the top 4 teams in the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference. Like, it's basically been built through the draft. No super teams were really created for them.
Yeah, and I love that is kind of going away right now. I feel like going back to like the Gilbert Arenas comment where you have to be, this big market player. Like, no, you don't. All you have to do is have a functioning franchise, a coaching staff that cares, a front office that cares and has a plan, and then players that are bought in. Like, that's all you really need to make things work. Like, if you have the talent that goes with it, you'll see it accelerate and grow at the right pace. And like for me, I just miss that part of the game anyway. Like the whole, like, yeah, I like that players had the player empowerment where they were making their own decisions to go play with their buddies or whatever. But it kind of lost the ability of GMs and front offices making those shrewd behind the scenes moves that made the league kind of unpredictable and fun as well. Like I missed that part. Now or back then, they were just trading guys to wherever they wanted to go or letting them walk off to wherever they wanted to go. And then the league was just predictable from the start with Golden State and Cleveland. Like that was a horrible time of NBA basketball. And now you have young teams, you have new teams that are winning in new ways, providing new talent in different kind of areas of the game. It's so much beauty that's being grown right now. And it's not just the same normal teams, at the top, kicking the bucket by the All-Star break. Like it's something new and exciting. And it's awesome that the Pistons are at the forefront of it right now.
Yeah, I think you're just going to see more teams just built to the draft.
Mm-hmm.
Like I could see some teams just tearing down and just building to the draft, and maybe having a couple rough years. But I think a lot of teams have, like the Pelicans, for example. Me personally, I think they should just rebuild. Yeah. You have enough talent to just like get the draft picks. You had a shitload of draft picks from the Anthony Davis trade. I think you get a shitload of draft picks with the talent that you currently have. Like, that's a team that I'd look at. There's other teams across the NBA that I think are going to rebuild. Mr. My City, you don't have to do donations. I appreciate that. But he did leave a comment. If we didn't start 0-4, went 4-0, the combo would be would be so different. These guys are hungry and greedy. No one wants to smoke with us. They ain't laughing no more. Content right now. 47 wins. Yeah, I mean, I actually wanted to ask you about that like one time when you were on previously, because like I remember when they started 0-4, like they were getting booed off the court because it kind of lingered over from last season where, I went to opening night. I thought they played a really good game. They just couldn't close out against the Pacers. They didn't get their first win until I believe against the 76ers. But like, it's honestly crazy. They didn't go above 500 until February, if you think about it.
That's a fact. I do remember that. JB, he brought that up actually in I forgot which game. I think it was the San Antonio game in the presser, because we were talking about the turnaround, and he said like these kind of things like stuck with us and they helped with this growing. So yeah, being 0-4 helped them get to where they are. Getting booed in that game, getting booed in the Knicks game where they were at home, like that helped them. Ron Holland missing those free throws against the Bucks, like that helped him. He said that in the presser. He's like, yeah, it sucks that it happened, but he's going to be a different player after this. I promise you. And Rod is playing fantastic basketball right now. So, being able to go through these kind of growing pains, and just in the nick of this season, now they're the most dangerous team in basketball right now and one of the most exciting. So, yeah, if it could have been a different story if they were 4-0, but who knows? Maybe that could have had them a little more, comfortable and content instead. Maybe they didn't have the same hunger. Maybe they did riding on the same disrespect to the Detroit versus everybody mentality that they have. Maybe this is what they needed to get them in that direction. So yeah, it was a rough start. I remember a lot of the alarms being set off. Oh, here we go again. Oh, they're gonna this Monty 2.0. It's like, no, just give it some time. And now they figured it out. The identity's been set. And it's up and up here for Detroit basketball.
It really is. I don't have anything else to talk about. I really don't. I feel like every time I have you on, like it's almost like a radio show where we've almost been on for 2 hours. Absolutely love it, man. I feel like we crushed like every topic, especially the Shaq and Tony Allen topics. But I do want to give you the floor because I know you do so much work writing articles covering the Detroit Pistons. So, plug yourself, tell people where they can follow you, where they can support you and keep up with your work.
Appreciate the time, man. Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate you all for being here for sure. You can follow me on my social media right here at I am Eric Vincent on all my socials. Feel free to tap in with me there. Follow me. I love interacting with the people, love interacting with the great Detroit sports community. Hit me up there. You can follow all my articles at clutchpoints.com. Do as much pregame, postgame coverage as I can, covering the beat of the team, giving as many updates as I possibly can in my articles. Clutchpoints.com is where you can find me on there. I also have my own YouTube channel, Top Title Detroit. I'm trying to get going. Again, just kind of, I'm not going to stop talking about this, but see where sports coverage is now, man. It really made me want to take my YouTube page a lot more serious, because I believe this sports community of Detroit deserves so much better than it deserves. And I think it'll serve for other teams as well. And I really just want to give you guys the representation that this franchise deserves. So you can subscribe to my channel. I would really appreciate it. I think I'm about to crack over 200 subscribers soon. So Top Title Detroit, if you got a minute to subscribe there, I would really appreciate it more than anything. And for real, thank y'all for being here, man, because this is the kind of platform that you guys deserve to have. And Anthony being the great guy he is, man, it's a pleasure to be here to help you guys.
Well, like I said, the fans always request you to come back on. They just love your takes and your analysis and how you cover the game, and like just like simple stuff like Jalen Duren wearing Jaden Ivey's jersey that just blew up. Like people love shit like that.
That was awesome.
They honestly love stuff like that. Me and Sean were playing conspiracy theories. Jaden Ivey coming back because of it. Literally.
With that.
But I do have your Twitter in the description below for anyone that's watching live on YouTube. You want to go follow Eric on Twitter, just click on his link and you can support him that way. If you want to go and check out his YouTube channel, I also have his YouTube channel down in the description below. You can click on his YouTube channel and go subscribe to his content and get him over that 200 subscriber mark. We got to get you to 1,000, man.
Please. Hey, I'm trying to get big time like you, man. I'm trying to, to get my ground steps up right now. I'm in my restoration phase right now.
Oh, man. I remember when I first started, I was so nervous, man. I could barely talk. I could barely even compose a sentence. Like, good Lord, man. Like, I watched my first YouTube video for motivation from time to time. I was like, man, look at that jackass. But I appreciate you as always. And we have over almost 700 people in here on a Saturday afternoon. So appreciate everyone watching live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. But we will see you guys tomorrow immediately after the Pistons and Timberwolves game for our post-game podcast. But until next time, you guys, have a good night. Go Pistons. Peace.